As part of my foundation course, today I'm going to talk about the foundations for combination to oily skin that I really like. It's so important to get the formulation right, and obviously I've made up thousands of faces and some of them have been oily, very oily, and it's for me it's key to get that texture and that formulation that really suits the client's skin. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Clarins Evermatte, and this is a really nice, very lightweight foundation. So for someone who doesn't want a lot of coverage, it can build towards medium, but it's definitely got that very breathable, airy, light finish. It creates more of a veil, so like a matte veil over the skin, but it definitely corrects any minor imperfections. It's got an SPF of 15 and lots of skincare ingredients, so it has an anti-pollution ingredients and also anti-free radicals. So it's quite a good one for every day in the city to really protect your skin. I think it's better for more of a combination skin because it also contains some anti-dehydration ingredients, so it's good if you do have, maybe if your cheeks aren't quite as oily. So if you're definitely more of a combination, I think it's a really good one. It is available in 11 shades, and I also think it's really nice for someone who's more mature but maybe still got combination and oily, an oily T-zone, because it's not going to stick in any fine lines or wrinkles, but at the same time it is going to give you that nice matte finish, and it's long lasting, so it's a good one. So next up is another lightweight foundation that's good for combination to oily skin, and this is Estee Lauder's Double Wear Light. There is the original Double Wear, which is a much heavier coverage. I like this one because it's more of a light coverage, but I've got lots of friends who have oily skin that prefer the original Double Wear because they like the heavier coverage. It's a personal preference, but for me, I like the Double Wear Light. It has an SPF of 10, so it's going to photograph well. You're not going to get the flashback. It doesn't contain any oil or any pore clogging ingredients. The finish is matte but quite natural looking, and I think it's a really nice kind of everyday foundation for somebody with a combination to oily. If you've got very oily skin, you'll find that you'll need some powder to add to this during the day, but it's a really nice lightweight foundation. So now I'm going to do some foundations that are good for the oily and blemished to very oily skin. I'm going to start with No7's Beautifully Matte, and this is a great foundation for anyone with sensitive skin because it's hypoallergenic, so it's quite good if you are prone to allergies or any sensitivity, as well as being oily and having blemishes. It also contains salicylic acid, which is good for clearing out the pores. It's an exfoliating ingredient which goes sort of down into the pores and helps to stop them from becoming blocked. So as well as covering your blemishes and your oily skin and your large pores, it will also help to treat the skin and prevent new blemishes from forming. It's got a really nice silky matte finish. It's a medium to full coverage foundation, so it's good if you want that kind of really sort of perfected look to the skin. And for anyone that can, some people can't get away with salicylic acid. They find it too drying on the less oily parts of the skin. But if you are oily and blemished all over, it's a really great foundation. Another similar foundation is Clinique Anti-Blemish Solutions, and this again is another foundation which is good for sensitive skin, oily skin with blemishes. It also contains salicylic acid, so it gives you that medium to full coverage, and it's also helping to clear the pores at the same time and with a matte finish. I really don't recommend either of those two for combination skins because the salicylic acid and the drying ingredients will dry up your less oily parts, and I've got more of a combination skin, and whenever I've used them, although they work really well on the oily bits, I found they dried the dry bits, so definitely more for the truly oily skinned. Another good foundation for oily skin is Makeup Forever's Matte Velvet, and this gives a good medium to full coverage, and it kind of sort of dries and sets on the skin, so it's very long lasting and it's water resistant, so good for in the summer, or if you're going somewhere where you're going to be really hot and sweating, it kind of stays put. It comes in 16 shades. It doesn't contain any salicylic acid, so really good if you are someone that finds that salicylic acid or foundations that contain that dry your skin out too much, or if you've got maybe a few areas of your skin that aren't quite as oily. And it, I think, is a great foundation for a very young, oily and acne prone skin. Another great foundation for an oily to very oily skin is Revlon's Colorstay, and this is in the formulation combination to oily. It does come in another formula for dry to normal, so don't get them mixed up because they're very, very different. This one is a medium to full coverage. I would suggest adding a little bit at a time and really blending it in because it sets. Once it sets, it's very, very long lasting. It has a nice matte finish. It's not too sort of chalky looking. It's quite smoothing, so it's good if you do have spots and blemishes to cover. It comes in a whopping 20 shades, which is good for a drugstore brand. It is quite tricky to remove because it's so long lasting, so I'd say make sure you've got a really good makeup remover at home and you double cleanse so you get it all off at the end of the day. And the only thing I'd say I don't like about it is the packaging, because it hasn't got a pump and it's just a pouring bottle, so it's a bit like a tomato ketchup bottle that you kind of do that and then get either too much comes out or too little. But apart from that, it's a really, really good foundation for an oily to very oily skin. Good for young girls that have, again, acne, blemishes and oily skin. It doesn't contain salicylic acid, so it's a nice one if that's something that dries your skin out too much. And the SPF is only 6, so it's a good one if you're going to be photographed as well. One thing I do just want to mention is that if you do have very, very oily skin, there is no foundation in the world that's going to completely block any oil from coming through. What these foundations do is that they contain ingredients to slow down how much oil reaches the surface. So they contain sponges and oil absorbing ingredients which absorb as much as they can, but when it gets to a certain point, if you're very oily, then some will break through. The only reason I want to mention this is because you'd be amazed how many requests and comments I get on my Facebook page saying that I've got very oily skin, I use this foundation which is for oily skin, but after 4 hours I found that I had to blot. What's going wrong? Well, 4 hours is actually pretty good. It means that it was absorbing all the oil you were producing for those 4 hours and not letting any through. But anything that would completely block your skin, which would stop oil coming through, would not be good for your skin. Even primers that contain silicone. Silicone is not occlusive. It doesn't totally block the skin. Your skin can still breathe. So you will find that some of you do just have to touch up and blot and use a little bit of powder throughout the day. But what you should be aiming for is finding a good foundation which holds it off as long as possible. So that's it for today. Obviously there are more foundations available for oily and combination of very oily skins, but these are my personal favourites. So please watch the rest of the videos in this series because collectively I think they will really help you to find the perfect foundation for you. Thanks for watching.